All righty. So welcome, 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 ladies. It's so good to see all of your beautiful faces. I haven't seen you since the kickoff day, and I think probably the same is true for you as well, Emma. That would have been
Yep.
the last touch point that we had. So we love this session in particular because obviously Emma and I get to run it together. And we get to talk to you about a topic that is very near and dear to both of our hearts, which is one about communication and influence. And we feel in particular that this session is really timely in the program because you're coming to that stage where you're obviously starting to really think about and flesh out your ideas around your social impact project and starting to think about and flesh out what your pitch is going to look like for our pitch night that is coming up in June. So if you're sitting there thinking, I have not prepared for that, I'm not ready, do not stress. We have still got plenty of time, but you've got some really important touch points coming up in the program that are going to be really important for you to make sure you have done some thinking and put some plans in place so that when you catch up next week at our STEM day in person on next Friday, which is exciting, you've got your Meet the Mentor session in there. And then you've still got a few weeks after that to do your one-on-one mentoring sessions, your coaching session, to best prepare for the pitch night. Now, the reason today is so important as well is because we know, and Emma and I were just having this conversation before we let you all into the call around just how much content there is out in the world right now. Like all you have to do is open your phone, turn on the TV, go onto any number of social platforms, open the newspaper, and there is just content, content, content everywhere. So it becomes so, oh, thanks, Chloe. I haven't got anybody in the waiting room, but I will keep an eye on her to pop up. Um, it is so important that we think about how are we communicating our message effectively and concisely to the people that need to hear it in a way that they need to hear it. So this will become so, so important for your social impact projects when you start thinking about what is it that I want people to do? And then how do I need to communicate that in such a way that we enact action and we inspire action from them to do something? Now, all of that really starts in the way that not only in the way we communicate and influence, but in the way that we build trust with people and the way that we build relationships. So I'm going to ask you a question in a moment to pop into the chat what you think it looks like to build trust with people. But before we do that, I want to just quickly touch on what it is that we're actually going to cover today, because we've only got an hour and a half together, which will fly by. And so there are really three things we want to cover off on. The first is that we want to learn some of the key skills around influence and how you can implement them consistently in the way that you communicate. So, whether you're communicating with your friends, your teacher, your mentor, people in your community, people at work, how do we do so in a way that is highly influential and highly effective? The second thing we're going to learn is how you can increase those communication skills using micro skills like active listening, like paraphrasing, like really strong questioning techniques in order to amplify your voice. And then lastly, you're going to have a go at putting some of that into practice through a couple of activities that we're going to do today. Give me a thumbs up if you are with me and this feels like a good time to be having this conversation. Awesome. Cool. Now, quick show of hands as well. It's okay if you are not as far along, but quick show of hands. Go like this if you feel like you're really clear on what your social impact project idea is right now. Okay. Go like this if you're like, I kind of got, I'm like, think I'm there, but it's not fully locked in yet. Yeah. Okay. And go like this if you feel, oh Lordy, I don't know yet. Okay. Nobody's doing that completely, but we've got a bit of this and a bit of this, which is good. That's okay. You are exactly where you're at, and that is no problem. We've got plenty of time. So I want you to pop into the chat now when you think about the idea of building trust with people. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to build trust with people? That can be whether it's your friends, your teachers, your family, your work friends, community friends. What does it mean to build trust? And you can pop that into the chat. Awesome. Following through on actions, absolutely. Being willing to work with someone, even if things aren't going well. Yeah. To be able to rely on people. Yeah. Them knowing that you're reliable, communicating to others. Yep. Building mutual confidence. I love that. Listening to them without interrupting. Following through what you say you're going to. Absolutely. Being okay with talking to them no matter what it is. I love that. Being consistent. Absolutely. Knowing you can rely on them. Being honest and open. Awesome. Awesome. All very, very true. Safe environment. So, really, how do we create spaces? If people are going to trust us and people are only open to the influence of people that they believe in, that they trust, that they feel like get them. So, if we've got a message that we want to communicate out to the world, if we've got an opinion on something, or we've got something that's really, really important to us, in order to inspire other people to get around that message, we've got to build trust with them. We've got to engage them in such a way that makes it worthwhile for them to feel like they want to listen to what we are saying. And so, that, in essence, is what we're going to build on today when we think about this idea of communicating with influence and communicating effectively. So, I'm going to share my screen with you for a moment. And Emma, I'll get you to just keep an eye on the chat as well in case I miss anything while I'm in there. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you can see that, okay? Excellent. So, this statement, even now, 20 years into my career, this statement still stands very, very true. We need people to achieve career and business outcomes. We absolutely cannot do it alone. And so this is something that becomes so critical when you think about the people that you work with, the goals that you've got for your career, for university or TAFE, whatever it might be in your life. How do we make sure that we are always building effective, trusting relationships with people in order to be able to achieve that? So I want you to hold that as the baseline of everything that we do today and everything that we build on. Because when we talk about the idea of influence and we talk about the idea of communication, it has to be genuine and it has to be built on genuine, trusting, effective relationships with people. Now, the way that we do that through effective communication is making sure that the message that we are sending and the message that is being received on the other end are aligned. So often, and I do a lot of work with adults in large organizations who will often say to me, Claire, I'm so frustrated. I said the thing, I sent the email, I told them what I wanted, and yet they didn't do it. And then my next question will be, well, talk to me about why you feel like that is effective. Like, what about your communication was effective? And often people can't answer that question because they think that just because I communicated my message, I said the thing, means that it landed at the other end. Whereas what we know is that effective communication means we've tested that the meaning we want to land has actually done so. And there are many, many, many reasons. And Emma, I'm going to invite you in a moment to add your 2 cents on this as well. There
Yeah.
are
And
many,
sorry,
many
Claire,
reasons.
just to interrupt, sorry, can you just check
Yeah.
the waiting room? There's a couple, just make sure there's no one in there because I've just on WhatsApp with them.
Oh, there's nobody in the waiting room at the moment.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, cool. There are many, many reasons where communication can fall down. And I want to invite Emma, because Emma does a lot of work as well with lots of different clients in lots of different businesses who essentially come to her and say, help us communicate our message, our brand, our ideas more effectively. And so, Emma, in your experience, and I'll stop sharing my screen for a moment, in your experience, where does communication fall down in people's ideas and opinions? Where does it get lost in translation?
Yeah, so there's so many reasons why it gets lost, which can sometimes make it feel like communicating is really hard, but actually it's not. It just takes a little bit of thought to make sure that what you're saying is landing. So one of the first things that people struggle with is they assume that other people know a lot of the information, or they assume that they understand. And that doesn't help anyone. So, effective communication takes any confusion out of the whole language or the message, and it makes it really easy for people to understand with all of the information. So, don't assume that people know. Always give them the background information or give them more context just in case maybe they don't remember, is the other one. The other big tip is, or the failing points I see with businesses is that they say something and they want that message to land, but they never explain why it's so important for that
Mm,
listener to actually hear it. Why does it matter to me? Why should I care? What impact does it have on me? What outcomes will it create for me? I want to know what's important to me. We all live very busy lives. We all have lots of things coming at us. Why should I stop and listen to this or stop and read this? So we need to make it really clear why it's important to that person. Why it's important to you can also help because it helps create more of an emotional connection. So it's important to me because of this, but we can't always rely on it's important to me because let's be honest, we don't really invest so much in what's important to other people. We need to know why it's important for ourselves. That's the big
mm,
one.
mm,
So we assume that people don't have, we assume that people know information when they actually don't. We then assume that they know why it's important and why they should listen to it and the benefits to them, which they don't. And then the other method is that honestly, there's too many words a lot of the time. It's just it's just too much, which is why when we do things like our pitch video or emails that we send, we try and keep them short. Get to the point. Sometimes when we feel really passionate about something or we want people to take action, we feel like we have to over explain it. Then we end up with this wall of text and that goes in the too hard basket. They go, I'll come back to that later. I don't have time to read and comprehend that right now. So sometimes less is more when we're trying to get a point across. What do you need to know? Why is it important? And this is what happens next. That final piece of now do this action, take this information and do something with it. It's all good to say something and that's important, but we always need to make sure that they know what the final step is. Now that you know this, go and do
mm,
this. So they when we don't have those things included, businesses that and brands, they're just putting out all this information everywhere, but no one's reading it. And when they read it, it doesn't make any sense. And they go, too hard, I'll forget about that later. I'll come back to that later, and they never do. Or they just don't do anything about it or take any action. And at the end of the day, our communication is about influencing people to take action in some way. And we're not talking
mm.
like mighty action. It could be simply replying to your email, could be an action.
Yeah.
Yes.
Emma always has this beautiful saying that I love around a confused mind says no. And I think that that is like, in essence, what effective communication is. Like too much information, too many asks, too many like calls to action of what we want from people. It feels too hard. It says no. And to your point, no isn't just no, I'm not helping. No might be avoidance. The email's too long. There's too much text here, too much to do. So no might mean I just can't deal with this right now. So the easier that we can make it for the people around us, the people that we're trying to engage, the people that we're trying to influence, the people that we're trying to communicate with to do the thing we want them to do, puts us in the best position to get the result that we're looking for. And in essence, that's really what we're talking about today is how do we do that? Not your social impact projects are the way that we apply this skill in the program over the next 6 months. But the skill of being able to do everything that Emma's just shared is the skill that will see you through for the rest of your life, through uni, through your career, through relationships, through any job that you go to here on forevermore. So that's why this is such an important skill that if you can master now and you can build the muscle memory around it, you will find yourself so much more effective and so much more able to get to wherever you want to go. And there's a beautiful saying as well by Simon Sinek, which I'm sure a couple of you will have heard before, around people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so that is where those beautiful stories around why you care about the causes that you care about, the personal stories that you can bring, the case studies that you can bring to life and make things really real for people around why something matters, those are so important to helping bring people along for the ride. Now, the other way that when we think about communication, we're going to talk a little bit more about influence shortly and the models to do that, but just thinking about communication again for a moment, and to Emma's point around using all of the tools that we have in a way that is concise. I think often we forget when it comes to communicating that it isn't just the words that come out of our mouth that people are looking at or listening to. People are drawing meaning from the message that you're sending out to the world through everything that you have, right? So as I'm talking to you at the moment, I'm using three parts of communication. The first is my words, right? So the actual words that are coming out of my mouth is obviously one part of communication. The second part that you might notice that I'm utilizing is my voice. So the way that I'm speaking to you. Sometimes I slow down. Sometimes I speak up. Sometimes I speak lower or higher or faster or slower, or I emphasize certain words, or I'll pause to emphasize a point. This is also part of communication. And then the third part is obviously my non-verbals, right? So my body language. And we're in a really interesting situation right now because we're obviously online, which means you can only see me from the shoulders up. You can't see that I'm wearing Ugg boots and tracky pants right now. You can only see that I've got lovely earrings on and that I'm putting a smile on my face right now, and I'm using my hands when I'm trying to demonstrate my enthusiasm to you for this topic. So it's all of those three things together. If I just sat here and I turned my camera off, and I just like this, and I just said, I'm really like, I think communications, I think it's kind of important. The message, not anywhere near as hard hitting. So I want you to think for a moment, particularly as you start moving into preparing your pitches and as you start applying this skill, how can you use everything that you have your body language, your facial expressions, your tone, and your words to communicate the message in full. Anything you want to add to that, Em?
I have a little tip for webinar to communicate who we are and to be remembered, and also to help make it easy for people to refer to you on virtual calls. A little tip is in the Zoom function, it has your name. Go into, you can all adjust what that name states by hovering over your photo, clicking on the three dots, and then the rename section. So make sure that you have your first and last name, because that's what you want people to remember and make it easy for people to refer to you. And also, if you have multiple people sitting in the room, you can use that rename function to put both names so then everyone knows who's there. So it's small things like that that are also helping us to communicate with each other.
Excellent tip. Excellent. Okay, let's talk now. So we've spoken about where we go wrong with communication, why it matters, why it is such a key ingredient in building trust with people, and people will invest in things that they and people that they trust in. Now, let's just talk quickly around the idea of of influence and persuasion, because influence and persuasion are actually two sides of the same coin, but they do mean slightly different things. One is a process. To persuade somebody is how we communicate through a process. To influence somebody requires us to really be open to the way they see the world, the ideologies, the things that they're suggesting to us, to be influencing us to do something differently. So before I share the definitions with you about those things, I would love you to pop into the chat when you think of people who have high influence. So people who are really strong influencers. They can be anybody. They can be celebrities, sports stars, politicians, anybody that comes to mind for you. I just want you to think about, who are they? So who's somebody that you would consider to be an influencer, and why? What is it that that person does that makes people open to their influence? And just pop that into the chat. It can be anyone, celebrities, sports star, politicians, anybody that comes to mind for you. Who is an influencer? But what is it that they do that makes people open to their influence? Yeah. Isabella, that name comes up every time I ask that question. And you're not wrong. Whether you agree with the concepts or not, the actual the influence that that individual has is enormous. Yeah. Making people feel important. Yep. Using personal pronouns like we, you, us. Absolutely. Well done. Confident in his ideas, even though they are stupid. Yeah. Which makes him persuasive. Absolutely. Yeah. Tailors the words to what appeals to the audience. Spot on, Shani, and how they need to hear the message. Yeah. Goes for most. Yep. Strong knowledge and charisma. Definitely. Thanks, Chloe. Fatima Payam, relatable figure for young people. Yep. Malala, absolutely. Yep. Credibility through their experiences. Spot on. Make people feel like it directly affects them. Absolutely. Julie Collins, Sam Kerr. Yep. Nice. Nice. So you get it. Absolutely. Now, here's the thing with influence, right? As we've kind of outlined a little bit, we can use influence for good, or we can use influence for evil. It will always come down to the individual and the leader and the human being as to whether you utilize this skill to move the world forward or to move it back, or to use influence as a way to drive meaningful change, or to use influence as a way to manipulate. And so that's why it's so important that we always go back to who we are, what our intentions are, and what our values are, because that underpins the action that we always take as leaders. And so this is why I always love to ask this question around who people see as being really strong influencers. And we often do get a mix of both. We will get really strong influencers who we in a really positive way, and then we can see those influencers that are using all of the skills that sit with influence, but potentially to be manipulative or exploitive or to detract from the good things happening in the world. So this is a really important point to think about when we consider what influence is and essentially the power that we have as leaders to drive change in a positive way. But in essence, I'm going to, and I'll share my screen with you now. In essence, when we think about the difference between the two, let me just bring that up. There are two definitions here, and we can share with you this slide deck, so don't worry if you don't capture everything. But when we think about the idea of influence, influence is a long game in that it takes time. It does take time to effectively influence people because essentially influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something or the effect itself. Whereas persuasion, we often refer to as being the short game. It's a process that is aimed at changing a person or a group's attitude toward an event, an idea, an object, or a person by sharing or conveying information, feelings, and or reasoning. So, although you will be influencing people and provoking new ways of thinking in them through your social impact projects, essentially, we're actually trying to persuade people to do something. We're trying to persuade people to take action on something for you because of a cause that you believe in, right? And so that attitude, the action, the behavior that we might be trying to get them to do differently might be responding to your email. It might be donating to a certain charity. It might be coming to your event. It might be giving up their time. It might be sharing your message with people in their network. The way we get them to do that is by conveying, to Emma's point earlier, is by conveying the right information and reasoning that makes that an easy decision for them to say yes to. Anything you want to add to that, Emma?
No, I agree with all of that. I think we just need to really enforce the point that there is nothing bad about doing this stuff, influencing
Yeah.
people and persuading people. We often think that, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be trying to control people in that way. That is not what that is about. This is all about for the right purpose, for the right reason. And it's a very important part of leadership for that reason. So I just want to reinforce the fact that this is not negative. This is coming at it for the right reasons and using these tools to actually lead people into creating great outputs and impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Spot on. And the reality is, if you think about your life every day, you are being influenced and persuaded to do things every single day. How we choose to spend our money, our time, our brain capacity, our how we choose to share in our relationships with people, how we choose to invest in them are all results of how we have been influenced or persuaded day to day. So it's happening to us. So, firstly, the first part is to be aware of how it's happening to us and ensuring that what you're open to are influence and persuasion that's going to positively influence your life. But then, secondly, how do we make sure, to Emma's point, as leaders, that we are doing it for the right reasons as well, which all of you are, because you wouldn't be on a program like this if you were not. So let's talk now a little bit, and we're going to do an activity on this to bring it all to life in a moment before we then talk about your social impact projects. But let's talk a little bit about what the process of persuasion can actually look like as a conversation in order to be effective. So I'm going to share this next slide with you here. This is called the persuasive cycle. Now, it's 3 steps. And I actually have found this a really valuable tool, even in the way that I often will write emails to make sure that they're concise, the way that I'll have conversations with people to make sure that I'm getting my points across effectively and in the most persuasive way possible. And you can see here that it's broken down into 3 parts. So the top part here is your recommendation, suggestion, your idea, your request, right? So whatever it is that you've got thoughts on, that's part 1. You're going to share that. And I'll give you an example of what that might look like in a moment. The second part is what we call often the WIFM principle. So what's in it for me? And when I say what's in it for me, I mean the person that you're talking to. Why should they care? What's in it for them? If we're asking for their brain space, their ears, their capacity, their relationships, their resources, why should they care? What is your cause going to help them to do? So it might be things like the benefit for them if they were to adopt your idea or your ask is that maybe it saves time, maybe it saves money, it might improve efficiencies, reduce risk, improve safety, build better relationships, make for a better world, right? All of those would be examples of why something would be important to another person. And then the third part of this is what is the evidence that we've got to back that claim up as well, right? So, and when we talk about evidence, evidence isn't only data, statistics, it is those things, but it also might be adding more weight to an idea or a conversation through sharing your own personal story, through sharing case studies, through sharing examples, through showing a prototype, right? So all of those things are ways we bring things to life. And so this, in essence, is a cycle, and this kind of continues to go around and around in the way that we can converse. What is my idea? Why should you care? And what makes it true to support the claim even further? Now, when we talk about your pitches, which we'll be doing next week in our STEM day, and we'll also be, Emma will go into this a little bit more. Emma's going to give you a little bit more information around how do we engage an audience from the get-go. Right? So we'll be adding a little bit more on the top end of this and a little bit more on the bottom. But just for now, I want you to hold on to this idea of conversational frameworks that you can use to increase your ability to persuade and influence and to communicate your message in a way that is concise. So I'm going to invite you for a moment, if you have got your phones or you can take a screenshot on your laptop, to just take a quick picture of this slide because it's going to help you in an activity that you're going to do in a moment. So I'll just give you a couple of seconds to do that. Just take a quick picture of it because I'm going to pop you into breakout rooms and this will be really useful for you. Okay, so let's talk quickly around what are the tools for action when it comes to communicating effectively and leading forward with greater influence. You've highlighted these beautifully before when I asked you what it looks like to influence, and at the start of this conversation when we spoke about what does it actually mean to build trust. So these are things like actively listening to people, right? Just because I hear you doesn't mean I'm listening. To listen is a choice. To hear sound is just something hitting your eardrum. So actively listening means I'm withholding judgment. I'm not answering you whilst I'm listening to you in my head at the same time. It means I'm actively listening to every word that you're saying with the desire to understand. And when we engage in conversations with people, actively listening to them puts you in the best position to play back to them what you've heard, which is the second tool here that you've probably heard about before as well around paraphrasing. That is showing people that you're listening by saying things to them like, it sounds to me like the challenge that you're facing is around X, Y, and Z. Or what I'm hearing from you is you feel really frustrated by the injustice around that. Is that right? Have I understood that correctly? That is how we demonstrate to people that we're listening. That is how we build trust and then how we build deeper influence through relationships. Thirdly, is our ability to ask questions effectively. So, quick show of hands, just pop your hands up if you know the difference between an open question and a closed question. Who knows the difference? A couple of people? Awesome. Awesome. Sarah, I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit just because you are the little square that I can see right now. Would you be open to sharing with us what you think the difference is between an open and a closed question? Yeah? Awesome.
Wait, me
Um,
or
oh,
Oh,
hold
we've got,
on.
sorry, Sarah Tang, and then also Sarah Muckton. Sarah Tang, do you want to talk to us about what you think an open question is?
I would love to. An open question is a question that requires more than a one word answer, or because a closed question is one that's like a yes or no answer, but it's one that requires like a little bit more thinking. That way you can like bounce off each other. You know what I mean? Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, I absolutely know what you mean. Very well answered. An open question will often start with phrases like, "Tell me more," "Help me understand," "What," "How," "Why." Right? They encourage more information to need to be shared from the other party. Whereas a closed question is generally more things like do you, can you, will you, which requires more of a yes or a no. So we use both in our conversations with people. Open questions help us draw out information, which gives us data to understand people, data to show people that we see them, so that then we can use closed questions to ask them to take action or to confirm how they'll take action. Sarah, other Sarah Monkton, is there anything that you would want to add to that? Or do you feel like Sarah covered that pretty well?
no, no, Sarah did good. Sarah did good. That was what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. The yes or no question. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. So that is a tool for action when it comes to influence and the way that you might structure your conversations are leading with questions to people. Sometimes those questions too are rhetorical questions. They don't need to answer them. We're just framing them to them in such a way to think about. And sometimes they'll form the basis of your dialogue with them. Emma, I feel like you want to add something.
No, no,
Oh,
I was
your
actually
face
just
is like nodding along.
I was just thinking about point four, speaking the language of your audience, and I was just thinking, I'm like, oh, so many examples recently where that hasn't happened. Sorry, my mind was racing
Yes.
ahead.
Yeah. So brilliant segue to tool four around speaking the language of your audience. And a lot of you have already touched on this so beautifully before around understand when we were speaking about influencers and what people do, they understand who they're talking to. They are, and therefore, if I understand who I'm talking to, that means I know what's keeping them awake at night. How do they need to hear a message? What kind of stories might they need to hear? Stats, facts. How do they need to hear a message in order for it to land? So it isn't about lying or changing what you care about. It's about thinking, how do I need to translate my passion, my opinion into the style that somebody might need to hear it? That's the essence of that tool. And then lastly, being aware of your non-verbal signals. Now, remember before when I was showing the way we share a message through body language? I have this example of a leader that I used to work with, and I remember them saying to me often, Claire, I just want you to know that my door is always open and I'm always available. I want to know what you think. As they said that to me, though, they were looking at their phone. They were not looking me in the face. And so there was an incongruence between what you're telling me that I care about you, I value what you have to say, versus what your body language is actually doing. which is that you're actually not looking at me, you're looking at your phone, which the meaning that we might attach to that is that, well, you're not really that interested in me and what I have to say. So when we communicate a message, it's important that everything is helping us communicate that message in the most effective way that we can. So I'm going to come back to you for a moment and just do a quick check in. Emma, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
No, I just think I want to again enforce the point of nonverbal communication because, the whole saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. The
Yeah.
nonverbal parts really do express a lot. If you want to express that you're really passionate or keen about something, but you're sitting there and you're talking like this and you're not really, you're saying, I need to do this, no one's going to care. They're not going to hear it. So I think it's really important that our non-verbal communication, and that goes as far as text messages and emails as well. And it ties in a little bit with that point around being relatable to the people that you're talking to. So if you want them to take what you're saying seriously, if you want them to actually tune in and listen to it, it needs to be done on a platform or a communication way that suits them as well. If they get a random text message, I actually had, okay, here's an example. I know of somebody that has been in business for 40 years. He's very well known in his industry as the CEO of a company. Because he knows that he's very well known, he thought that everyone knows him and everyone is happy to talk to him. So he went to the reception of Woodside to talk to the general manager at Woodside in their corporate office and sent a text message to the general manager at Woodside to say, I'm in the lobby, let me know when you're free. There
Oh,
was no prior arrangement or anything. So when we think about communication styles, he's been very short and sharp with his messages. He's not said any context or background or information. He's used a text message, which is a very informal platform, which makes no sense. And he's not given any evidence as to why he should talk to this person. So you can imagine that didn't land very well. All of these things and the fact that it was like on the spot in the minute rather than like the day before, I'm coming to your office then. So it's not about what you say, it's how you pre-position it. It's how you give people time to process it. It's how you reach out to them. It's how you greet them when you get there. It's how you interact with them and using different platforms. All these things to think about. All these little pieces all create a grand experience with you. So we need to remember that all these little things we do are forming part of the way that we communicate.
yeah. Very, very true. Very, very true. And that's how we build brand in
Mm.
essence as well, which is a
Yeah.
whole nother topic. But what we're going to give you the opportunity to do now, I've just been setting up some breakout rooms. Well, Emma's been sharing that story, and I'm going to give you probably 8 or 9 minutes. We'll send you some messages so you can keep track of time. We're going to pop you in a breakout room with a partner. So the two ladies that are in the room together, I've popped you in a breakout room. So you'll be in a room in a random room, but you're already in a room. So you will do this activity together. Everybody else, you're going to appear randomly in a room with somebody else. And I want you to think about everything that we've just shared, particularly in terms of the persuasive cycle, that activity, the three parts. So, what's my idea or my recommendation? Why does it matter to you? And what evidence do I have to help back that up? And what you're going to do with your partner is you're going to imagine that you're a travel agent. Okay, so you're both going to have a go at being the traveler and the travel agent, and then you're going to swap roles. If you are the travel agent, your job is to ask the traveler a series of questions, right? So, smart questions, open questions, closed questions. Tell me more about that to help you get an idea of what kind of travel, what kind of holidays, what kind of destinations, experiences are important to them. So, you're really going to have to actively listen to them. You're going to have to paraphrase by checking. So it sounds like what you're saying to me is, if have I understood that right? So that at the end of about 2 or 3 minutes of you doing that with them, you can then present to them a destination or a holiday package that you think that they should go to using the persuasive model. So you might say to them, my recommendation, based on everything you've told me, my recommendation is that you should be going to Tuscany in Italy. The reason I think you're going to love this is because you've shared with me that you love warm places, you love pasta, you love sitting down for a long meal in the sun with your family. And so I really think that this trip is the right one for you. I've got a couple of packages here actually that I've recently put together for another client, and you might want to read a couple of their testimonials from that experience. Here's what they had to say. What do you think? Right. So I just made that up, although I would love to personally go to Tuscany myself. But that is an example of you using active listening, good questions, and paraphrasing to then present back to somebody in a message and in a way that's going to best engage them. Okay, so we're going to pop you into your breakout groups now. You've got about 3 minutes to ask questions, share your recommendation, and then you're going to swap roles. And hopefully, we come back with a group of people that have got all of their next holidays planned. Give me a thumbs up if you are with me. Yeah? Awesome. Good stuff. All right, I'm going to open up your breakout rooms now, and I'll send you a couple of messages to help you keep track of time. So you might need to accept your entry into the room as well. So just click join if that comes up. We'll see you shortly. I think Xanthi has frozen maybe.
Do you want to pause the recording, Claire?
Yes, thank you. All right, so I'll bring them all back in. And hopefully my internet will continue to be kind.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Welcome back. Welcome back, ladies. Welcome back, team. We've got a couple more jumping back in a couple of seconds. Is my internet being kinder, Emma?
Yep, you seem to be coming through okay.
Yay. Been having some lovely tech issues while you ladies have been in breakout rooms. Okay, all right. Almost got everyone back. Excellent. Love when breakout rooms work. Fun. Okay. Quick show of hands. Who is going on a holiday based on that conversation? Shani is, Daisy is, Lulu, Chloe, Sarah. I can see a few hands. Oh, most hands actually. Excellent. Pop in the chat for us where you're going. I would, because I want some inspo too. I would like to be planning my next trip. So pop in the chat for Emma and I where you're going so we can copy. Maybe we can gate crash.
Oh,
Like, no.
there's some good destinations on this list.
Yes. Love this. Love this. Oh, some great destinations.
Some nice
Very
local ones too.
Yes. Okay, I love that. I'm also going to invite you to put into the chat of the skills that we were talking about in terms of open and closed questions, active listening, paraphrasing, the persuasive cycle. Which one do you feel like you utilized the most in your conversation? Or which one worked really well, do you think? And just pop that into the chat. So, which skill did you use that you felt worked really well? Open questions, yeah, paraphrasing, questioning skills, active listening, nice. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And do you know what's really interesting when it comes to active listening is that if you ask most people, do they think they're a solid active listener? They'll say, yeah, absolutely. But active listening is actually a very hard skill because it requires us to completely be present and remove any dialogue that's happening in here so that we can fully absorb that person in terms of what they are saying, what they aren't saying, what their body language might be saying, so that we can then ask the next best question to really make sure that we understand them. So you've just had a beautiful practice in that, and you've got a holiday out of it, which is excellent. Everybody go home and suggest to their parents this afternoon that this should be the next. See if you can use this persuasive cycle with your parents to recommend why this destination might be a good next holiday for you. But with what we want to do now, before we move into how do we apply this to our social impact projects, is I'm just going to share my screen with you one more time and share this slide with you, which I think is a really helpful way to think about how, and I'm going to invite Emma to weigh in on this as well. What we've got here are 6 laws of influence. And a lot of these are taken from a gentleman called Robert Cialdini, who's written a number of books around influence for good. And he talks about these 6 laws. So we've got, and I'll touch on them quickly in a moment. We've got building your reciprocity, increasing your consistency, finding opportunities to demonstrate social proof, liking because you see me, authority and scarcity. Now, you already touched on, you might have used slightly different words, but you already touched on most of these when I asked you the question earlier around what makes us really buy into people's influence and really be open to it. And so really, you've already nailed this. But if we talk about what some of these mean and how they might apply to your social impact projects. So when we talk about the idea of building reciprocity, we know we know that we are more likely to be open to the influence of or want to help people that have been there for us before. Right? So I know certainly in my world, anyone that's ever shown me support, interest, belief, anything, I naturally want to be in a position to be able to do the same because I'm grateful for them. They've been able to support me, and naturally I want to always make sure I can do that in return wherever I can. So influence is often built through the way we build mutually beneficial, genuine relationships with people. When we talk about the idea of consistency, this is consistency of your message. It's consistency of how you show up. Now, that's not to say that you won't change your opinions on things over time. Though that's not true at all. The more we learn, the more we grow, the more we know, which means you're always open to changing your opinion or your perspective on something as you learn more. But when we talk about influence and the power of consistency in influence, that is more around how do I show up in my brand and my leadership and the way that I treat people through how I communicate a message. Because when we have leaders or people in our worlds that it might feel like sometimes we're walking on eggshells. I don't know what version I'm going to get of them today. I don't know how they're going to react. We pull back. We're less trusting because of that. And that naturally then impacts the relationship we have and our openness to their influence. So consistency is key. Social proof, also a really powerful lever when it comes to influence, because ultimately people want to be part of something that feels good, that looks good, that's having a positive impact. So we can influence other people in a positive way by showcasing how other people might be getting involved with your idea, how other people might be supporting communities, how other people might be driving change. And then other people are like, oh, I love the look of that. I want to be a part of that as well. So social proof is a huge lever for influence. Liking because you see me. Now, we know, and you've already covered this, when people feel like you get them, when people feel like you really understand me, they're more likely to be open to hearing what you have to say. So it doesn't just mean I like you, it means I feel like you get me. I feel like you understand the challenges that I'm facing. That's why that is so important for influence. Authority isn't just about power. Every single one of you on this call has authority because you have got expertise. You have got areas that you know, even if what it is that you know is your personal story that drives the fire in your belly to want to make a change in the world. That's your authority. And we can use that to drive influence. And then lastly, scarcity, right? People want to be part of things that feel exclusive or scarce or unique or different, or because it makes them feel like they're special. So, how can we find ways through our social impact projects to use scarcity, exclusivity, uniqueness as a driver, potentially to get people involved? So, sometimes that is used through time based scarcity. The numbers of things that are on offer is often used as only two left. All of a sudden, you're like, I don't even want that, but now there's only two left. I really want that. Right? They're a way, and again, influence for good. So using this in the language that enables your message to be heard and for people to want to be a part of it. So, Emma, I'm going to invite you in a moment to maybe share some examples of where you've seen this come to life or where even you've seen them used in some of our social impact projects. But before we do that, I just want to ask each of you, when you look at this list, I want you just to pop into the chat when you think about your social impact project or your social impact idea, wherever it is that you're at right now, which one of these feels like an area that you might be able to play with a little bit more to draw people into your message? Which one feels like an opportunity for you? Yeah. You see me? Absolutely. Yeah. Social proof. Social proof is a big one we see often with our social impact projects. Scarcity. Yeah. Social proof. Yeah. Beautiful. Opportunity and authority. Authority, absolutely. Authority is a huge one because you know why you're passionate. This is the why piece. We can demonstrate authority through demonstrating why something matters to you and why people should care. Scarcity, scarcity, beautiful. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to jump out of this slide now so that we can see all of your beautiful faces again. What do you think, Em? What would you add?
Yeah, I see all this stuff play out so much. I was just thinking about reciprocating because we don't always feel like we have something to offer back. It's not easy to be like, well, if you help me with this, I can help you with that. It doesn't have to actually be that obvious.
Mm.
Sometimes reciprocating is actually showing genuine interest in somebody else's purpose or what's important to them. It's showing encouragement and support for them. That could be as simple as liking or commenting on posts they put on LinkedIn to show support for what they're doing. And so the more we're seen as supporting, the more it's going to land when we go to them and say, "Hey, can you support me in this?" Sometimes we've had it recently ourselves for FFL. We rely on so much support from other people. We've had some legal advice to help us create some contracts, and we have a lawyer who's willing to help because he sees us show up on a regular basis. So that's being consistent. He sees the work that we're doing because we talk about it often. We have website blog articles, we have email newsletters, we have posts going out on LinkedIn. But more importantly, I call him and touch base with him every few months just to say, hey, just wanted to check in, say hi, see how you're doing, let you know that we're doing really well. We've been doing all these things. So that's that consistent approach. At the same time, I've also built rapport with him so he knows that if he needs help or advice when it comes to marketing and branding, I will answer his phone call and I will give him that advice. He knows that and he trusts that in me. So when I say, any chance you can help us with this, he's willing to help. It's a perfect example.
Mm.
So I think there's sometimes we overthink what it is that we have to be able to offer and how we need to show up. Um, the scarcity piece is a big one as well, is that just getting people to actually do that thing now. It's it's not going to be any help if it happens in a year or 2 or 3 years. Is what is that now? I think that's a big part of it. Yes.
Mm. I like the example you gave around the lawyer because that actually tapped into so many levers of influence that, and once you learn these skills, it's not like Emma wouldn't have sat there and pulled out those 6 laws and gone, which ones can I use with this individual today, right? It just becomes part of how we we work when we want to build good relationships with people, and how can we serve and support other people, and then naturally over time people want to do that back. And when we're consistent in our leadership and in our approach to things, people, that builds credibility builds trust builds opportunities. And so I guess that's really the message that we're trying to share with you today, is that all of these things are not things we just do one off. We've got to do them consistently each day with how we show up for our friends, our family, our teachers, all of it, because it's ultimately what opens doors for us as leaders at the end of the day. So we've got about 15 minutes left today, and we really would like to use this opportunity to give you the chance to perhaps flesh out some thinking a little bit more around how might we use some of these skills for your social impact project. So you're very lucky because you've got a branding and marketing strategist expert on the call in real time to ask your questions to, and to potentially one or two of you even get some hot seat coaching for. So, what do you think, Em? Should we invite some
Yeah.
questions, or do we do a bit of hot seat coaching? What do you want to
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, let's have a discussion. Put it out there. Let me know what you're thinking, what questions you have right now. Let's work through them together. I do also want to point out that when we come together on STEM Day, you are going to have a session specifically around your social impact project, where you will be introduced to the roadmap of what to do and how to do it and timelines of what to do when. So the actual practicalities of bringing your social impact projects to life, that's coming at STEM Day. And I understand if you're feeling a bit like, I don't know what to do when, that's coming. So you'll be able to focus in on that. But for now, the first part of anything we do is defining what are we doing and why are we doing it. What do we want to achieve? Why is that important to me? And who do I need to engage to help me pull this off? So if we understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, who can help us, then the next step is how do we reach those people? How do we communicate with them? How do we keep showing up for them? How do we offer them support back as well to build up our relationships? And how do we make sure that they get on board and actually want to help us? So I'll put it out there. If you have immediate questions, pop them in the chat. Otherwise, I'd love to know a little bit more around what you want to do and why it's important to you. How much of that do we know so far? Let's start that conversation there.
Who's got a social project idea that they might benefit from some help fleshing out a little bit more? That would be a good place to start.
I can jump in because I have an idea, but I'm not 100% sure on like the details and how I'm going to really execute it. So I'm really passionate about quality education. And I think a major gap in our curriculum is that we teach people about like economics and stuff, but not about financial literacy and how in the real world they're going to apply these skills to, you know, save their money and ensure that they're like all set for the future, especially given the current like economy and like cost of living stuff. So I'm just wondering, like, what key stakeholders and how should I go about reaching out to them to create some kind of educational program? Are we thinking educational programs for financial literacy that already exist? Maybe like school curriculum authorities? I'm just not, I'm a little bit lost. Like I have this big idea and then I don't have like actionable items to do.
Do you here's a little tip for ideation, right? So this is what we call ideation phase. We've got to come up with lots of different ideas of how we could pull something to life. So I'd really encourage you to use a piece of paper and draw a circle in the middle of what do I want to achieve? What is the end result? And then start doing some branches out of how could that be done? Is it learning? And then if it's learning and education, do another branch off that. Well, what options do I have for that? Is it online course? Is it podcast? Is it email learning where it's notifications, things like that? Start thinking about the different avenues of all the different things you could take. And then from there, you can start to circle the ones that you think would really interest you or the people that you really want to support. Go and ask them and say, if I offered you one of these, which one would you prefer? Which one would you use?
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. All right, we've got some questions in the box in the
Mm.
chat box as well, which is cool. I'll make sure I don't miss any. Okay, how do I build authority and trust with companies and adults who see us as a child? Oh, I like this one. Okay. So the key thing here is that we need to refer to evidence, statistics, and information that exists. This is not our personal opinion. This is data and information that is already out there that I'm bringing to you and I'm showing you. Then we package that data up in a way that looks like we've put significant thought into it. We're being professional, we're speaking with professional language, and we're presenting ourselves in a professional manner, as if they would expect from anyone in the workplace or outside of the school field. And we're talking, what are they used to seeing in adult communication, which you guys actually do really well already. You'd be surprised. You do really well. I have adults that can't communicate this stuff that we have to teach how to do it. Okay, so don't lean on your personal opinions because, as you know, like you're still growing and thriving into having lots of experiences of your own, but you don't have those yet. So we don't lean into our personal opinions too much. We lean into data and evidence and statistics, reports that help us to get our message across. Then they'll take it more seriously. All right, let's have a look at Sarah's question. Do you have any recommendations on how to reach out through emails to get responses? Yes, lots of tips. First one, make sure the subject line is a good reason to open the email. Chances are they're hearing from you for the first time. They don't know what it's about. So make sure that subject line has a good reason to open. Why are you contacting them? But we don't want it to look like spam. So have a good think about that. When you open that email, they don't know you, they're hearing from you for the first time. It's really important that you tell them why you're reaching out. Hi, Claire. I'm reaching out to you because, and this is the beauty of it, you guys can lean on the Future Female Leaders program. I'm a 16-year-old girl in the Future Female Leaders program. We are doing all of these things, and I'm on a mission to create this impact or create this project. And I would love for you to help or have some input in some way. You guys can really lean on that by saying that you're in a program. It's giving you credibility straight away because not many people get into this program. So you should definitely talk about that. Then talk about your purpose and your passion and your why. And then address very quickly that you're looking for help to do that. So that should be the way that it opens. So very quickly I can see, right, this is what it's all about. It is legit, it's credible, and that's what they're asking for. All right, I'm open to it. Let me keep reading to find out more about the specifics.
Yeah. I'd hyperlink our website as well into your email. So when you reference Future Female Leaders, hyperlink the website so then people know they can click on something and even more so prove like, oh, this is a legitimate site, a legitimate business, and are more likely then to keep reading and engage.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Claire. Don't assume that people know what that is. So link them through so they can read more about that if they want to. But yes, that is how I recommend you tackle that. You can use ChatGPT, Claude, other AI applications to help you get some ideas of the type of subject lines and the email body. But I would always, always, always say what those programs write is not going to be how you should send it. It's a good starting point to get some ideas, but you should definitely tailor it so it sounds like it comes from you. The stuff needs to sound authentically you. If you read that out loud and it doesn't feel like something you would say, then you need to make some changes to make sure it really does sound like you. And your mentors will give you great feedback on this, guys. You've got your mentors there to talk about these examples and say, what do you think of this? How does this sound to you? Would you open this? That's a perfect example where you might bring in your mentor for some feedback. All right, let's have a look at the next one. My social impact project is centered around, oh, sorry, that question's just moved. Chloe, social impact is centered around a webinar teaching younger adults soft skills. Oh, I love that. How should I build credibility and actually reach students who would be interested in listening in? Very cool. What age are we talking about, Chloe? The ones that we want to listen in and join the webinar. Chloe, you're just on mute. You can unmute yourself if you want to
I
chat
think
to
she's
us.
just typing into the chat.
Ah,
Yeah,
there we go.
7 to
Young
10,
high
year 7.
schoolers, years 7 to 10. Okay, so that's a pretty young age to reach. So best way to do that would be posters at school and raising awareness through school. Also, raising awareness with teachers, if you can get teachers to help tell them all about it, and perhaps parents as well. You could reach out to the school and see if they can let you put something in the school newsletter that the parents get so they know all about it as well. But I think given that age group, definitely some sort of posters and things like that. It's an electronic medium. It's a webinar, so you will need parents to help facilitate that for them to make sure that they've got access and they are comfortable with them using it too. So I definitely think work the parents and the school teachers a lot to get them to encourage people to jump in and do that, make sure that they are aware of it, and then lots of posters around the school is what I'd be doing to try and get people onto that call, onto that webinar. And also give them the option to watch the recording so they don't have to be there live. Because it's really like no one can get school schedules to fit and things like that. I'm sorry if you can hear construction noise. They've just started up the construction next door. So hopefully that's not too loud for you.
Can't hear at all.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right, you are welcome. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Sarah, how do I get my ideas out there? How do I get people to know my project and what I stand for? Sarah Tang, that's a really good question. Can you tell us a little bit more about your project or what you know so far?
I have this really cool idea about making like a short film about like focusing on the SDG goal of equality for all women and girls, and I focused on with my mentor like equality, like inequality in the workplace, and I'm just a bit confused about how, because obviously I'm not in the workplace just yet, so I need some like input from obviously females in my life in the workplace, and I just don't really know how to get started.
Well, you're in a great group to get started with that. We have lots of females in the workplace in the Future Female Leaders Circle. So I would definitely start by asking your mentor if they know anyone that could be interested or they could connect you to that could help. The LinkedIn platform is a really strong platform to help reach out to people for the first time. I think that if you explain what you're doing and why you're doing it and why it's important, I honestly think a lot of women in the workplace would be very keen to support you and to share that message. So you might be asking them to share it so other people know about it. That could be one way. Yeah, definitely leverage other people. asking, getting people excited about it, making sure that they see the importance of this, and they see the importance because of the data and the facts and all that kind of stuff. And then making sure that they know this is how you can help. It might be as small as commenting on this post or clicking share with your network or something like that.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Can I just add quickly, Emma, as well, just while you check the next question? With all of the things that we've been talking about in terms of the emails and making and asking people to share things, etc., it is possible, in fact, it is probable that people may not reply to you to your email the first time you send it. Or you might ask them to share something and they don't share it. I put up a post 2 days ago asking people to share it and no one has. Am I going to let that stop me from asking them again, though? No. I'm going to reach out again individually and say, I know how much you believe in this cause. I know how important it is to you too. Here's something I'd be so grateful for if you wouldn't mind sharing. So I just want to flag that because sometimes, especially when we already feel like we're, a little bit out of our depth and things are a bit uncomfortable and we try something and then it doesn't work, it's really easy to go, well, that didn't work. I don't want to do that again. I knew they wouldn't reply. But we have to remember that people are busy as well. So just because they don't reply doesn't mean they don't care. Like as we've been on this call, I've had 57 emails enter my inbox just on this call alone. So sometimes it's just that people miss things or they get lost or they want to reply, but it gets, it just falls down. So if you don't get a response, you have to follow up. You have to follow up and not let it fall into the bucket of, oh, see, they don't care. They do care. Sometimes things just get lost. Sorry, I
And
just wanted to make that point.
no, it's absolutely true. And there's a lot of people who actually won't do anything on the first reach out because they assume
Mm,
that you're sending this big message out to a lot of people and they assume that other people are going to help. So a follow-up is you being consistent and showing up and reminding them that this is actually really important to you and you actually do really need their help. It's very common for people to ignore the first request, but a really nice, short, but considerate follow-up. I know you must be really busy. I just wanted to check in because this could have a really big impact and I'm really passionate about it. Let me know if there is something that you can help with, something like that. A follow-up usually works quite well. There's a few questions around how we get in front of our target audience, how we actually get out to those people. The key thing here, everyone, is to be really clear on who those people are and then have a think about where they spend their time. Are they spending their time at school? Are they spending their time in cafes, at gyms, online? Where do they spend their time? And that's where you get in front of them. So you start with a little drawing of who they are and what they like to do with their time, and then think about all the different platforms that they might be using. Are there podcasts that they listen to? Are there websites that they go to regularly? Are there platforms that they use on a regular basis? That's how we start thinking about how we get in front of them.
yeah, great advice. Emma, I'm just conscious of time. So I just
Yeah.
want to call out one more question probably then and then we've got to wrap. But ladies, don't fear. We are going to talk about all of these things in much more detail next week. So like we have a whole day together next week to dig into some of this stuff more. But Emma, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind us touching on the question around sort of in terms of social impact projects, your views on what's too big. I'm worried
Yes.
my project isn't feasible, but it's what I really want to do. We get this one
Oh,
come up often, so I think we should just quickly touch on it.
yeah. I think it's a really good point because we can all have the best intentions and big ideas, right? Part of being a leader and having a big vision is to think about the end goal. What am I trying to do long term? But being a leader also means that we need to work out what is actually possible right now because little steps are what create momentum, bite-sized pieces. So you might have this big vision, but I really encourage you to think of it as a 3-month process over the next 3 months. What is realistic and achievable? You will get so much more satisfaction and you will get so much more momentum taking a little bite size and working towards that than you will trying to overcommit and do too much. Now, examples of the big idea versus bite size. A big idea might be to host an event to raise awareness and educate that has 100 people in the room. That's the big idea. Running that event, getting those people to that event, funding for it and everything, there's a lot of work that needs to go into that. So the bite size for the purpose of the next 3 months might be to map out exactly what that event looks like and then seek a partner to become your event venue sponsor or something like that. That might be your first milestone, your bite size to hit. It might be getting agreements from the school that they will allow you to run it like that date next year or something like that. So the social impact project for the purpose of this program, it doesn't have to happen within the parameters of this program. You might have a great big vision that you want to see happen in the next year or two, but what can you do right now to start getting that moving? You might have something in mind where you know you really can pull it off, where it might be a smaller event where it might be, okay, I know I want to run this big event, but I'm going to need lots of funding for it. So I'm going to start by doing a bake sale fundraiser locally now to start raising some money for me to run my big event. That's all part of my grand scheme and my big vision. So your mentors really need to help guide you and what is realistic to do right now. I want you all to think as big as possible. What could I do if I had all the time and the money? What could I do? Okay, well, I can't do that immediately. So what part can I do right now that's going to be a step towards the right direction? And your mentors will really help you narrow in on that. That's one of the first parts of the roadmap of your social impact project of where you need to start. So we will be going through that. Claire, can you think of any other examples of bite size, like a step for the purpose of this program versus the great big vision and
Mm.
goal?
I think probably the one that comes up for me was Mayuri a couple of years ago. Good luck, Lulu. I just saw your message. Good luck. Mayuri a couple of years ago had this big vision around like how many tons of rubbish she wanted to be able to collect over over like the course of the program, and it was I can't remember what the figure was that she was working with, but it was like an enormous amount that probably wasn't achievable for the time frame that she had. So you still want to sell people into the vision of why this matters, and she had kind of some visuals of what that amount of rubbish would look like and what it would save. But then to break it down was like, well, how do I sell people into the vision, but what is achievable? So she ended up doing like two smaller kind of ocean cleanups in that time as a way to ladder up to the bigger goal and prove the interest, et cetera, et cetera. That's
Yeah.
probably the one that comes to mind for me off the top of my head.
Yeah. And like another example would be the vision is to have beautiful sculptures by the beach as rubbish bins to collect rubbish in all the coastal areas of Western Australia. That's the vision. The starting point was the bite-sized piece for the purpose of the program was to find one artist to create one sculpture and put it at one beach and know that
Mm,
that's the first step to a greater cause. And then you've got tangible things to show, social proof of
yeah.
how that works. So it's a bit like the beta test. It's
Mm,
the minimum viable product,
yeah.
MVP. We talk about that a lot, is sometimes we go too big, we go too hard, it flops, it doesn't work at all. So we need to be realistic and go, well, if I do this now, that gives me something to talk about, it gives me noise to make. I keep showing up consistently, reminding people that we're here doing this, and then we can ask for more support to go to the next stage.
Yeah. Great
Yeah.
advice. We're going to have to wrap up now, ladies. I know we've gone
Yeah.
a little bit over. We're going to do a quick wave at the screen, though, if you don't mind, so we can take a little happy snap of us all on the call today. I don't know how to do that, but I know that Emma does.
I
So
do. All right.
give us a countdown.
All right, everybody. And 3, 2, 1. Got
Amazing.
it.
Great work today, ladies. And if you hang up this call and you're feeling like, oh, my head is buzzing with all of these things, again, we will be covering it next week. We're going to see you all day in person next week. We cannot wait. You've got a session in the morning about critical thinking with Beth Ann, which is so good, and it helps you break the big ideas down into smaller chunks, which is going to be a really great feeder for the rest of the day, drilling into your social impact projects, and then your afternoon with your mentor, where you can bring it to life a little bit more. So we love you. We're so thrilled that you've been able to spend the time with us today. If you've got any questions, you know you can reach out to Emma or I directly. Otherwise, we will see you all in person next week. We can't wait. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next
Bye.
week.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Absolutely. India, if you want to hang on, you can
Yeah, is
definitely
that
ask.
okay?
Of course it is.
I was just wondering, so I'm kind of going a little bit, not like off, but I'm more focusing on like drownings.
Oh,
So
wow.
like
Yep.
I'm into surf life saving a lot, and
Yep.
that's my main thing that I do. And last year, 92% of drownings were male.
Wow,
Wow.
really?
Massive. It really, really is. And there was like so many rescues, preventative actions, everything. So I'm looking into doing that. But I think my problem is that I guess we all kind of know the reason it's probably more male is because they think they're on top of the world and they're invincible. Same with like driving, like when we've got like 17-year-old boys on their P plates, like
Yeah.
it's just never a good mix. I think
Yeah.
my thing is that I'm looking into how I can reduce that number, and my two ideas are kind of I either do a challenge similar to the push-up challenge or the ice bucket challenge.
Mhm.
But I think my concern with that is how do I make the challenge relate to like reducing drowning without guys going, that's cringe, or
Yeah.
doing like a resource, but then it's also like, no offense, but males are pretty hard to grab when you give them like something to read, or do you know what I mean? So I'm a
Yeah.
bit conflicted.
Yeah. Do you know if there's an age demographic? Like, is there like when you
Yeah,
look, you know that the stats say men, but does it say what age?
it's actually really, really weird. So it has men, and then it goes like your age brackets, and it says the two most likely age brackets are people over 60, and
Yeah, I
then
thought that.
people between like that 20 to 26 or 18 to 26. So
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
probably target the 18 to 26
Mhm.
just because I think it's easier than like I can use social media to my advantage rather than 60 plus is a bit
Yeah.
pushing it.
Yeah. There was actually an awareness campaign, advertising campaign in New Zealand a long time ago about don't drink and swim. They had a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
drownings because of alcohol.
Mhm.
And the campaign itself, it was one video, right? It was just like a 30-second to 1 minute video which
Mhm.
showed the environment that they're often in, and it was like it had them like being typical boys,
Yeah.
and then it was all fun and games and laugh, and then it just went really wrong, and then it came in, it
Mm.
was like this happens more
It
regularly
was
than you think.
impactful, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. So in terms of reaching them, like I think there would be benefit in crafting a really like one video that would be like it's raising awareness, right? The challenge with things like the push-up challenge and things like that is the message gets diluted. Everyone shares it and they all talk about the
Yeah.
push-up challenge. I couldn't tell you now actually what the push-up
Like
challenge was
what the
to raise money
cause
for.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually don't know. I right, the cause and awareness. So it becomes more about how many push-ups can I do and less about what it's actually about.
Mhm.
Whereas I think if you created something that was short and sharp, and then that could be your project is to create that video using like if you can get actors from your local drama club or actors that there would be people who would support you in it,
Mhm.
and then make this one video. Your next step would be to get that video distributed. So how many I don't know how many influencers or pages can you get that shared on Instagram?
Yeah.
How
That's
many channels, and you might even you could thinking big, you could even reach out to media people, like people, local newspapers, even local
Yeah.
breakfast TV. I think the first part is creating that story in a video, and
Yeah.
that's a big project in itself. Like, don't underestimate that. 30 seconds to 1 minute, like properly done video can
Yeah.
be quite chunky. So even just to like be able to create that in this time, just in a lo-fi, so like not hi-fi, not it doesn't have to be, because that's not relatable to our younger audience either. Our younger audience are like all about smartphones, GoPros, like do it with a GoPro. Be like, bro, I got this action camera. Like something like that. Keep the tech simple, but keep the message strong.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think that's like I'm actually really fortunate where I think I'll be fine with the networking part. Like I've had the opportunity to have meetings with like our chair of life saving and our chair of
Yeah.
like education
Amazing.
of Surf Life Saving Australia. And like I have access to the Fremantle Dockers. I thought that could be something like getting players to push that out. Or
Yeah.
even, like I wasn't really sure if I'd liked it that much, but even like BCF, like fishing companies as well. So
Yeah.
I think I'm
Yeah.
fortunate in the fact that I'm really good. I have networks. It's just I didn't know what I wanted to push out to those
I
Yeah.
think
networks.
the visual will exceed any other
Okay.
like
Yeah.
and I think are your mentors Ash and Henry at
Yeah.
CGE?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they totally different sort of thing, but they did a video. You can, if you haven't seen it, ask them to share it with you. They did an advertising campaign last year around gender equity, and it was quite, I mean, it was very, very well done. But in terms of, it was all these sort of micro behaviors just in corporate offices, like somebody standing at a lift and a guy like, commenting on a something or whatever. And then all it had at the end was just think before you think. And it was quite powerful from the lens of like really quite simple, but at the end of it, it made you see yourself in that video and go, oh,
Mm,
yeah, that could be
Mm.
me. So that would be good people to speak to as well in terms
yeah.
of like that experience. They did it through a full, marketing and advertising agency, but even in terms of just the thinking behind how they decided what they wanted to do and how they built it,
Yeah.
like in terms of the concept, they could be really helpful to brainstorm that with. But I think the visual and the video will be the most powerful. The first thing that came up to me, which that came up for me when you said the two demographics though as well, was
Mm,
like something in my head. I saw this vision of like a young guy drowning, trying to help the older person that was
yeah.
as well. Like that was the first, and taking a risk that they both shouldn't have taken, which compromised each other, which is a way of maybe tying the two together. But I think you're from the ice bucket challenge, push up challenge,
Mm,
PDF, all those things are not going to land in the same way that some really kind of confronting,
Yeah.
hard hitting video would.
Yeah.
yeah.
So at the core of it is your campaign slogan. So there's like that saying, like, think before you think,
Hmm.
or don't drink and swim. So like you need that slogan, like respect the sea or something like
Yeah.
that. It's like so you need that. So that's like the core purpose. And then you've got to think about how do I get people to know what that means? So then that's where you can like then now we're talking like bumper stickers, posters at
Mm,
beaches, like all this sort of stuff going out across everything. But when they hear about it and they're like, "What's this all about?" They watch that video. Like that's where the message
yeah.
really gets across. And so yeah, and like hashtag, think before
Yeah.
or hashtag respect the sea. So you can
Yeah.
you can build it up over time. T-shirts, social media platforms, YouTube channels, like doing interviews with people. So much you could do, so much. But at the
Yeah.
Mm.
core of it is the slogan and the video. The slogan to help people remember it, and the video to make sure that the message comes across.
Yeah, I think I asked ChatGPT and it said like I could literally just do the 92 campaign. So it's like the percentage
Mm.
and then like so simple, but it's dead straight. Like it's a big number, but then I was like, would people really connect the dots?
I think it
I
might
think
be a bit too far-fetched.
Well,
Yeah.
the emotion
Yeah.
piece isn't there with it. I think you need the stat though in your like when you're communicating the why, it matters in your pitch and those sorts of things because it, you know, you saw Emma and I both be like, whoa.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it makes it real why it matters. But I think the slogan's got to be like a you have to feel it.
Emotional. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank
Cool.
you.
How
Powerful stuff.
exciting. Great idea. Great idea. And obviously just making sure you're winding that back up to the UN sustainable goal too, that you feel like
Yeah,
that's
I
helping make
think
you
I was
progress
going
with.
to connect it to the health one, number 3, because
Yep.
it's like it can relate to preventable deaths.
Yep. Yeah. I think you've
So,
got a few options in there. I think you could even tie it into some level of quality education because a lot of people that, you know, a lot of the time it's because people also have never had access to learn how to swim as well. I mean, the stats might be telling a different story if it's more around risk taking, but there's a few avenues you could link it to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Cool.
keep us
Thank you.
posted.
Yeah, definitely. All
Yeah.
right.
Well
Awesome.
I'll
done. We'll
see
see
you
you
guys
next week.
next week. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All
Have a
right.
good day.
You too.
Bye. Cute. All right, I'm just going to stop this, which may, if my internet goes wonky, I'll just call you.